doubt है, confusion है? Transportation, I think we are done till the double circulation, human the entire process is over. Blood pressure all over, right? अभी खाली diagram we have to finish today and plan transportation with this ले. बना दिया? अच्छा, very good. कितना सा? अरे ये तो और छोटा है. बाकी all finish the diagram of the heart.
I forgot my.
ये पुराना एक्सक्यूज है. कुछ नया बोलो. ये तो हम लोग भी बोलते थे. कुछ नया बोलो ना. Did you finish the structure of the heart? किया? We are going to do now. Yes. So, हाँ बोलो.
We need to draw this one or the one who shows us last.
No, for your exams you have to draw that only. CBSE बुक में जो है उसको वही पता रहता है. आगे पीछे उसको कुछ नहीं पता रहता. वो बुक में है वो करोगे मार्क देगा. आगे पीछे करोगे नहीं देगा. So diagram you have to draw that. That only we are going to draw now. Okay. So all of you, those of you have drawn the micro mini size diagram, that will not work. You have to draw a proper diagram. Proper diagram you have to draw. All of you, a fresh page you take and I have always mentioned how big, how small your diagram should be. Stand Guru.
Ma'am, in school, the teacher told us to make something like box and divide it in 4 parts and write the ventricles and articles.
अरे बाप रे, ये तो बच्चे करते हैं. You are 10th standard.
Yeah, our teacher told that in exam also you can do this in boards. You need to do it like this.
चार बॉक्स बना के.
Yeah, like this.
मैं ऐसे 4 बॉक्स बनाने वाले टीचर नहीं हूँ. I will teach you a very simple method of diagram drawing. तो 5 मिनट में तुम्हारा diagram drawing complete हो जाएगा. बॉक्स बनाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं. After that, it is your choice. You want to go by the box or by the proper drawing method. Okay, so let us try. Start in a fresh page. Half of the page should be your diagram. Parts should be very. Now that why that small diagram is not proper, because the parts are not well labeled. The parts are not clearly seen. In that diagram, the valves and वो भी तुमने trace किया है ना?
Yes.
So exam में कैसे मिलता है ऐसा tracing मिलेगा question paper में. So you'll have to learn what is the correct way of drawing the diagram. वो भी ज़्यादा time नहीं spend कर सकते हो. Maximum अगर आया भी 10 minutes में diagram complete करना है. So we are going to draw this diagram. Structure of the heart. So just few things to remember when I start drawing the diagram. Now this part has got diagrams and next part has got 2 diagrams to draw. The excretory system and the nephron. दोनों ही syllabus में है and एक diagram हमेशा आता है. So now that for the diagram drawing, now this is your page. Always I have told you this. Whenever you are drawing the diagram, don't ever think of drawing the entire diagram, the entire page. Entire page में कभी भी diagram draw नहीं करो. Diagram should be almost in the middle of the page and half of the page. मतलब diagram के ऊपर भी थोड़ा space रहे, नीचे भी थोड़ा space रहे. And then if you are drawing it in half of the page, so half of the page में. And this is the margin. तो margin की थोड़ा सा the diagram should not be exactly in the center. थोड़ा सा इस तरफ हो, so that maximum labels you can put on the right side, but left. Now this is a very complex diagram, so possible नहीं है कि all the parts I can label on the right. 2-4 parts left में label करना ही पड़ेगा. Otherwise, I'll have to cut the diagram. Say suppose I want to label the right auricle. If I label it this side, तो मुझे पूरा यहाँ पे cut करके लाना पड़ा, which is wrong, which we should not do. So quite a number of times what happens, students practice this way and then during the exam in a hurry, no, they would cut like this. वो ऐसे करके cut करके करते हैं. Examiner will consider that as a cancelled diagram. Okay, so ये इसलिए नहीं करना है क्योंकि marking. तो ये जो few parts है, instead of doing it this way, we will do it this way. So but then maximum labels हमेशा in a diagram try put on the right side. Okay, so this is one. Now in this diagram, You are just a 10th standard student, so no teacher, we are not expecting that you will be able to draw. Some of you, if you are very good in drawing, then definitely you'll be able to draw the diagram quite close. But most of the children are not very good in drawing. So now, what are we expecting? What is the board expecting? The board is expecting that you draw a diagram close to this. It should not be absolutely absurd. Close to this draw karo, neat draw karo. Don't use any colors, sketch pens, kuch nahi. Definitely out of 2, you will get 1, 1.5. Definitely out of 3, you will get 2, 2.5. So for neatness and improper labeling के लिए half 1 mark जाता है generally. So let us start. In this diagram, when you select, always take, you start the diagram in such a way that यहाँ से, meaning the diagram I start from here, keeping in mind that I have got enough space this side. जितना space मुझे यहाँ पे चाहिए, that much of space I need here also up. Okay. Otherwise again you'll have to redraw. अगर ये है margin of the page, ये मेरा page है. Can I start drawing the diagram from here? नहीं, because I will draw the ventricle still here. ऊपर मेरा auricle draw करने के लिए space कम होगा. So where should I start the diagram? I will start the diagram here. ताकि मेरा यहाँ पे भी ventricle के लिए space रहे, यहाँ पे भी पूरा auricles and tubes के लिए space रहे. Now we will always start the diagram. This is an easy way of drawing the diagram. Start the diagram always from the ventricles. I will draw it in parts. You also follow that exactly. उस तरह से practice करो, 5-6 बार practice करो कि you will be able to do it. Now that you draw the diagram should be a little bit tilted, ना? ऐसे straight नहीं draw करना है. The structure of the heart is not straight. It is always tilted towards the left. So start. Start your diagram. Start your diagram. Conical होगा. This part bit small and ये conical. यहाँ तक. Okay, करो part by part करते रहो. Little bit modifications you have to do. But it'll be what happened? now करो start. So यहाँ पे देखो, now that I have drawn here, इस level पे ही होनी चाहिए. Which part you are drawing? You know the earth now. Which part you are drawing, you should be able to understand. Then you are not missing out any part. So now that the first ventricle, which ventricle I am drawing? This is the right ventricle I am drawing. Now I have to draw the left side. So I will draw almost at the same level here. Almost at the same level. There should be space. See here, I have left space because structure has to be drawn here. Space रखना है. बात नहीं. Last day only I told you that I was about to draw the diagram. मैंने बोला नहीं था कि पेंसिल इरेजर सबके पास होना चाहिए. वो पाउच में Start. Don't look into the diagram. Those of you looking into the diagram of the textbook and you are trying to draw, you will end up in a mess. I'm showing you steps. Draw this way. I'm showing you steps. जैसे जैसे मैं करती जा रही हूँ वैसे वैसे तुम करो. It will be easy and the proportion will be right. Don't try drawing the double line diagram. Draw this. Once you are very thorough with the single line diagram, then you can go for the double line diagram. First step, start from here and complete this part. Second step, start from here and complete this part. यहाँ तक करो, complete करो fast. When you are looking into this diagram and telling me the book and you are trying to draw parts on your own, you will never be able to draw the diagram good. एक चीज फॉलो करनी चाहिए. Done? All of you done till here? Start from here. Finish the right ventricle first. Then take the left ventricle. Then take the left ventricle. Okay, let us go ahead. Done till here, all of you? We go ahead. So now extension of the left ventricle. How are you supposed to do? Extension of the left ventricle from here. Now this is the septum that you are drawing. As you draw the parts, you should understand which part am I drawing. So now this is the septum. These are the valves that we are drawing. These are the valves that you draw. It should more or less come like this. Uneven, little bit even, not a problem. So this type of valves you'll have to draw. Complete karo. Proportion yaad rakho, this part should not be that broad. This part should not be that broad, huh? And all this should be at the same level. If this part of your diagram is correct, then the rest everything will now fall in place. This should not be up and down. Check. After you draw the entire diagram, erasing and doing is even difficult. Now that you have finished with this part of the diagram, abhi ek first check is, are all these parts at the same level? Check karo. Are all these parts more or less at the same level? If yes, then you can go ahead. If not, you'll have to put it in same level. Agar same level mein hai, then go ahead. Now I proceed. I'm drawing the pulmonary artery. I'm drawing the pulmonary artery. I'll draw it a bit up there. It has become too low. Pulmonary artery. This is the wall of the pulmonary artery. You will not use any colors. You can shade and make it darker, lighter. Now also you check all these parts that you have drawn, are they in the same level? If not, your diagram will not look good. Once this much is done, now let us complete the valves. What did we draw so far? Ventricles over. Half of the valves we have drawn. Let us complete with the valves here. With this and with this. A pair of valves you draw. So this type of valves you draw now. So what are these valves? We have already drawn all the valves now. Tricuspid, pulmonary semilunar, Aortic, semilunar, bicuspid. We have drawn all the valves now. Done? We proceed ahead. Now from here, from this part, that is almost from the top of this tricuspid valve, we'll have to start. Almost from here you will start and take the pulmonary artery. Part by part you try to draw. So this is a tube. This tube we'll have to draw this way. Keeping in mind that you will not make this too long. You will not make this too long. So this part, the ventricle and this part should be shorter. इसको unnecessary बहुत लंबा नहीं draw करना है. So this much only. Then the diagram will look proportionate. So यहाँ तक you draw. But this is a tube, so let us complete. Now you understand which tube are we drawing. This is the pulmonary artery we have drawn. This is the pulmonary artery we have drawn. ज़्यादा ऊपर से लंबा नहीं होना चाहिए. Check, is it looking proportionate? If not, तो थोड़ा proportionate करना है. This part, lower part should be, the ventricle should always be longer. ये थोड़ा सा comparatively shorter हो. Now next part, what? Let us draw the auricles here. We have to fit in the auricles here. So this is the pulmonary artery we had drawn. The pulmonary artery has the right and the left branches, so that also we can show that it has got divisions. The pulmonary artery has got the right and the left branches. We show that. Next is we have to draw the vena cava now. What did I do here? Which parts are we drawing now? The vena cava we are drawing now. And along with that, the right auricle. Vena cava, right auricle, both the vena cava and the right auricle. Only the left auricle part is left now. So what was it? Draw the first right auricle followed by the left ventricle, right ventricle, left ventricle, both the valves, all the valves you draw. Pulmonary artery you draw, vena cava and this, and last is this, the diagram is over. The last is the left ventricle to be drawn, and along with that the pulmonary vein to be drawn. हाँ, कौन सा? अच्छा, aorta, aorta. Here is to extend it. Yeah. यहाँ पे कुछ मतलब ज़्यादा हो गया. Apple. Where the mistakes are, सारे बाल जो तो ना. हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है? बचपन में ऐसे डॉटेड लाइन से एप्पल ड्रॉ करते थे. हाँ, sharp सब कुछ ऐसे. क्या मैं जरा कौन सी ग्रेड्स मिलते थे ड्राइंग में स्कूल में बचपन में? एक था ना जैसे मिलाना से ड्राइंग में. हाँ, बेटर है बट खाली उसको कॉनिकल करो थोड़ा सा. ओनली द वेंट्रिकल पार्ट, अदरवाइज बेटर, डेफिनेटली बेटर. अभी करेक्शन डेफिनेटली इस डायग्राम में समझ आएगा. ठीक है, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. 4-5 बार प्रैक्टिस करोगे यू शुड बी एबल टू ड्रॉ समथिंग क्लोज, अदरवाइज नॉट स्टिल. गर्ल्स हो गया बाकी हाँ नीचे नहीं रेस्ट करना पता है ओके ऊपर का लगभग इसे के बाद What I haven't shown, what I have shown. For your diagram, only that principal part was complete करो. I have given you dotted lines पे करो तो. Make it bold and make it complete. After that, click. So यहाँ पे तुमने गलत क्या किया? This part you have got enough. Or almost it will be same. देखो diagram right ventricle is always inner to the box. ये in draw करना है. And then the ventricular part will go. Then this opening it has to be sharp. Yes, sharp. So what is the structure here? This part.
What are you doing?
dotted lines को भी खराब
वो बता
Shape last step shading. Now you just fix it. Maybe you don't think perhaps. This is one. This is one. Okay, all done. Now the last part is the aorta to be drawn. The aorta you'll have to take from here. This tube we have drawn from here, just imagining that this goes from the back, so definitely it will come up from here. Here in the diagram they have shown straight. I prefer to draw this way. It goes that way, so see there, last it will come up from here. or else you can make little bit flat. Let us make it little bit flat. Okay, now we will label the parts. Let us label the parts. What was the lining I gave you? You have all marks. So the marking practice. Right, you can write that. Try to finish fast.
Upward movement of water is called the ascent of sap. The sap contains dissolved minerals in water. Scientists have proposed various theories to explain the mechanism of the ascent of sap from root to leaf.
Transportation.
Transpirational pull.
Done, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Huh? What happened? You pencil, देखा नहीं कोई pencil? Hmm? Okay. So now that we are talking about the concept of double circulation, the structure of the heart, the last topic in this segment left is the process of transportation. Transportation in a plant. Let me see if I can show you a simple video on this.
Mom, don't we have to mark the arrows?
Arrows for the blood flow. For the diagram of the heart, no need. Diagram of the heart, no need. If you want to, हाँ, marks. Mark वैसे भी तेरा करने वाला है. एक arrow के लिए इतना ही mark बच जाएगा. आप अगर बता दे बाकी साइंस पूरा आता है. सुनता नहीं है क्लास में. Concentration नहीं है, seriousness नहीं है. No, there will be no mark deduction if you don't write the arrows, if you don't show the arrows. Showing the arrows means a concept of circulation of the blood you are talking about. Your question for the diagram will be draw a neat, well-labeled diagram showing certain parts. Sometimes the parts are mentioned and you'll have to label those parts only, not necessarily सारे parts label करना है. It will be a 5-mark question in total. So 2 mark, 3 mark for the diagram maximum, 3 mark for the diagram रहेगा, and then some half के कुछ questions रहेंगे, 4 questions रहेगा. So that would be the type of a question for the mark. For the arrows, if you want to show the arrows, you can show. Can you, without looking into the book, can you mark the arrows? What would be the blood flow? Then try to check what would be the flow of the blood. The concept of double circulation. Again, draw. नहीं, इसी पे ही. The blood is entering by the way of the vena cava, then entering into the right auricle, going to the right ventricle. वैसे छोटे-छोटे arrows, इतने कम नहीं. छोटे-छोटे arrows से mark करो. That's it. You're already marked. तुमने mark किया ही नीचे. That's it.
Transpirational pull. Now, transportation in plants.
Look into this video. Let us
At the end of this
fine,
session,
yeah.
you will be able to know the functions of the
girls at the
xylem
last, can you
and
see?
phloem cells
Normal little.
and explain transportation in
Nadira?
plants. All plants need water. Plant roots absorb water and minerals from the soil. Water absorption is mainly carried out by root hairs. These narrow-walled hairs greatly increase the area over which water absorption can take place. Water and minerals enter the root by 2 pathways. apoplastic pathway, and symplastic pathway. If water and minerals move from cell to cell through spaces between the cell walls, then it is known as apoplastic pathway. In symplastic pathway, the water and minerals move across the cytoplasm and finally reaches the xylem. Xylem vessels are long, narrow, hollow tubes containing no living material. The xylem transports water and soluble mineral nutrients from the roots to other parts of a plant. About 95% of the water absorbed is lost through the stomata present in the leaves. This process is known as transpiration. The number of stomata is more on the lower surface of leaves. If transpiration happens throughout the day, then there will be a great loss of water. This is controlled by the stomatal opening and closing mechanism. During the daytime, water enters into the guard cells along with the potassium ions. This brings about a change in the shape of the guard cells, and the stoma opens. During the night, the potassium ions and water molecules leave the guard cells. Thus, the turgidity decreases and the stoma closes. Stomata also act as main sites of gaseous exchange in plants. Leaves make use of water and the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Glucose formed during photosynthesis is transported to the other parts of the body through phloem cells. Phloem tissue consists of less specialized and nucleic parenchyma cells, sieve tube cells, and companion cells. Transport of food in phloem can be up or down the stem to reach all parts of the plant. Hence, the transportation in plants is the function of xylem and phloem cells.
Okay, so this is one little bit in detail. You are going to study now. Transportation in plants to understand the concept of transportation. What are the two most important concepts? The vascular tissues already I studied. Vascular tissues in the form of xylem phloem. Now, little bit related with the xylem, what are the processes and few more terms, their definition, their concept we'll have to study. Not too much in detail, you don't have too much of a detail as per your syllabus. So we will look into a concept of transportation in plants. Transportation of what? If it is a plant, then transportation of what are we talking about? We are talking about the transportation of water minerals and transportation of soluble food. So first of all, talking about a plant, thinking of a plant and trying to understand what would be the location of the xylem and the phloem. You already have studied about this, the xylem and the phloem. These are conducting tissues. But the first thing to understand, where are these conducting tissues present if this is an elaborate plant? If this is a tall big tree, where is the xylem and the phloem located? For the xylem and the phloem to understand, always remember the xylem is in the center. At any particular region I think of, the xylem is always almost at the center of the root, the stem, and the veins of the leaf. So that is how the xylem is connected. So if this is a tube-like structure and this tube-like structure connects the veins of the leaf, the stem, the branches, and then the roots. So this xylem is in the form of a tube. And if you remember, what type of a tissue was it? It was a simple permanent tissue or it was a complex permanent tissue? Complex permanent tissue. Q, because it is known as a complex permanent tissue. Correct hai, but Q. Huh? Who told me it is a complex permanent tissue? याद है? Q complex permanent tissue?
Because it consists of many parts and functions.
नहीं.
Many cells.
Cells. It consists of more types of cells. In comparison, if you remember the parenchyma, collenchyma that you had studied, only one type of cell. So simple tissue. So getting back into the concept of the xylem and the phloem, where would a xylem be present? If it is a xylem, where is it present in a plant? If it is a xylem, the xylem is always centrally placed. Then what about the phloem? The phloem is always on the outer sides of the xylem. So if this is the xylem, then where do I understand the phloem? The phloem is here. These are all tube-like arrangements of cells. I gave you an idea. How does it look like? So in a branch, in a twig, in a stem, where the phloem now? Yes, the phloem is here. So the xylem and the phloem, they are connecting the root, they are connecting the stem, connecting the branches, connecting the twigs and the all the other fine branches, I would say. And also talking about a leaf, if I talk about a leaf, they are also connecting the veins of the leaf. So till where does this network of tube run? The network of tube runs from the root till the veins of the leaf, till the upper part of the plant. Now we are going to understand the arrangement of the cells. The phloem is always towards the bark. Is it not towards the bark? I understand this is the bark of the stem. Where is the phloem? The phloem is always towards the bark, close to the bark. So this is the phloem, and the xylem is always centrally placed. The xylem almost centrally placed. So I will mark this as the xylem. Let us start understanding some processes. What is the function of the xylem? First of all, very clear. What is the function of the xylem? Transport of water and minerals. From where to where? Soil to the upper parts of the plant. What is the function of the phloem?
Carries the food from
Distribution of food from the leaves to all parts of the plant. It has to be all parts, and the movement is in all directions. I showed you this simple video where you get a summary of everything. What are xylem, what are phloem, what is the job of each type of tissues, etc. Now let us learn the relation, how the transport of the xylem and how the transport of the water and the food. Talking about the xylem, I start with the story of the xylem here. So now if I have to talk about the xylem, what is the first thing you understand? We are to come across that this xylem tube, what is it consisting of? The xylem tube is packed with water molecules. This xylem tube that I'm talking about consists of 4 types of cells. You just now have recollected that the xylem tube consists of 4 types of cells. कौन से cells? Tracheates, vessels,
xylem parenchyma and xylem
fibers. Okay. And similarly, phloem, if I ask you,
companion cells, sieve
tubes,
sieve cells,
phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers. So these are the 4 types of cells each. So now each of these type of cells play significant role when we are talking about this entire process of transportation. Let us understand. This entire xylem tube is packed with water. How did the water come into the xylem tubes? Yes, by certain processes. So now I want to relate that these root cells, how are they connected to the xylem tube? Say suppose I understand that the xylem tube is also a group of cells, but what about these root cells? These root cells, these are typical plant cells, so definitely they will be having a big vacuole in them. The vacuole is storing the water and the minerals constantly. But how is the water entering into the root cell? A process known as osmosis. A process known as osmosis is allowing the continuous entry of the water into the root cells. So now when I talk about this particular root cells, and these root cells will have one special feature. What would be that one special feature of that root cell? The root cell has got a big vacuole inside. This is a plant cell that we are talking about. And this root cell, the moment the root cell, the sap of the root cell is running short of water. When will the root cell run short of water? When will this root cell run short of water? When this is giving water to this cell. Very simple to understand. If this cell is running short of water, the sap inside is becoming hypertonic. Do you remember the words hypertonic? What is the meaning of the word hyper? When I say the sap is becoming hypertonic, क्या समझ में आया? The water content is lesser and the mineral solute content is more. We have studied all these. So now when I say that this cell, why is this root cell absorbing water? What process? The cell is absorbing water by a process known as osmosis. Why is this root cell getting the water? Why is it not giving away the water? The root cell is absorbing water because every time these root cells are running short of water. तो जो sap है, that is constantly becoming concentrated, hypertonic हो जा रहा है. And since it is becoming hypertonic and the soil water is dilute, what is that word used for dilute? Hypertonic अगर ये है, तो soil water को क्या बोलेंगे? Hypotonic. So soil water is dilute. Soil में बहुत water है, less of minerals है. This is the reason why the water is constantly entering from the soil to the cell. Okay. But इसके आगे और भी कुछ समझना है. That is, now that this xylem tube is constantly filled with water, water इसी process से आ रहा है. The root cell is constantly giving the water to the xylem tubes. But now, when the surrounding of the plant is hot and dry, what will happen? This water will get converted into the form of vapor and it will be released outside, a process known as transpiration. What is this process? What is the definition of this word? The release of water in the form of water vapor. So I talk about the plants, I talk about these leaves and the numerous stomata you have seen in this video. The numerous stomata that a leaf has, are these stomata constantly giving away water in the form of water vapor? Yes. The stomata is constantly giving away water in the form of water vapor. When the surrounding of the plant is hot, when the surrounding of the plant is dry, when the temperature is high, when it is a windy day, all are the good factors to bring about so much of transpiration. Now tell me, 5 days back when it was bright sunny, the process of transpiration was higher then, or today when it is little bit gloomy, the process of transpiration is higher? Then the bright sunny day. So on a bright sunny day, the process of transpiration is much faster. You understand that? Very simple. That if the outside temperature is very high, if the sunlight is very strong, outside temperature high hai, it's a dry day, then very well this process of conversion of the water droplet to vapor, that is a process known as transpiration, will be much faster. So now try to understand, now that the water is lost in the form of vapor, is it not that the xylem tube will suffer from some empty space? Empty space will be developed. So ये जो empty space अभी develop हुआ because the water is lost in the form of vapor. How will this empty space be filled up? This empty space will be filled up because this entire column of water, column मतलब एक chain के जैसे, the entire chain of water, इसको column of water भी बोला जाता है, the entire chain of water will move up. तो जैसे ये पूरा chain of water has moved up, तो definitely यहाँ पे empty space develop हो जाएगा. At the surface of the surface of the soil, at the margin of the stem, at the level of the root, यहाँ पे empty space develop होगा because पूरा chain ऊपर चला गया. So now that empty space has developed here, what now next? This root cell down, which has a lot of water, it is giving water to the xylem tube now. तो xylem tube को ये water धीरे-धीरे फिर से मिलने लगा. But now this root cell is becoming hypertonic, water कम हो गया, solute ज़्यादा हो गया. What will happen to this root cell? It will take water from the surrounding. This process is also osmosis. So इस तरह से chain of cells. Did you see in that video the roots are all elaborate in the soil? So one cell to the other, one cell to the other, one cell to the other, the water keeps on moving that way. So now if I talk about the cells very close to the xylem, they will give the water to the xylem. Now this is short of water, it takes water from the surrounding. Now this is short of water, it takes water from the surrounding. So now that I say short of water, matlab hypertonic, hypotonic. So the water will always come from a hypotonic media, and this cell will get its water, give to the next. Get water, give to the next. यही है process by which the entire movement of the water goes on in a plant. So what is the process by which the root cells absorb water? Osmosis. What is this process by which the root cell is absorbing water? Osmosis. Osmosis का definition क्या है? Movement of water molecules from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. I say from cell to cell जो movement हो रहा था वो भी osmosis है. Movement of water from a region of high to a region of low, ये भी osmosis है. Okay, now what is the next thing to understand? That this transpiration, I asked you a question right now. So when will this loss of water? Now, for example, now, today, the temperature is not very high. It is not a very dry day today. It is quite gloomy, quite cool, and it is not very windy also. It's a still day. So now in all these conditions, what will be the water loss? Maybe only this much small amount of water loss from the xylem tube. Rate of transpiration, less. But day after tomorrow or tomorrow again, if the temperature is something around 36, 37, what will happen? The rate of transpiration will be much higher. So now that the rate of transpiration is much higher, what will happen? The more the transpiration, more is this pull. More is this pull, no? So there is a pulling force. More the water loss, more the pull. More the water loss, more the pull. So what is this pull developed in the xylem tube known as? This pull developed in the xylem tube is known as transpirational pull. So transpirational pull matlab? Transpirational pull meaning higher the rate of transpiration at the upper parts of the plant, higher will be the absorption of the water, higher will be the dragging of the water in the xylem tube.
What if the rate is the rainy day?
If it is a rainy day, तो बहुत ही कम होगा. If it is a rainy day, तो बहुत ही कम होगा. If it is a humid but still and cool day like today, then उससे थोड़ा ज़्यादा होगा. If it is a very hot, dry day, तो बहुत ज़्यादा होगा. So on a cool day, humid day, transpirational pull is very less. On a dry, hot, summer, bright day, the transpirational pull is very high. How do we understand? That's the reason the soil is drying up very fast. That's the reason soil dry up very fast. But for the last 2 days, since it is raining also, and it is not very windy also, and it is not very dry also, see the sand and the potted plants that you have in the garden, the soil is still wet and moist. It's not getting dried out. So what is this concept? What is transpirational pull? The pressure, the force, which is developed to drag more water up in the xylem tubes. That is the pulling force. This is known as the pulling force. So now what are we understanding? What are the two major processes which helps in the migration of the water? Two major processes. One is transpiration, the other is osmosis. And what is the pulling force developed in the xylem? Transpirational pull. How does the water travel? By the process of osmosis from one cell to the other. What is the function of the xylem? The function of the xylem is the transport of the water and the minerals. Not only the water, transport of the water and the minerals. Now let us talk about the leaf here. Now let us talk about the phloem. Now this phloem. So what happened? This particular phloem, what is it undergoing? The phloem is undergoing a particular process. So for xylem, which are the keywords to remember? For xylem, I already told you. First of all, the rate of transpiration. Transpiration will result into transpirational pull. And more the transpirational pull, more will be the osmosis in the root cells. So now when we are talking about the process of xylem, process, by the way, xylem word, these are all the keywords that you have to remember, the processes you have to remember. Now talking about the phloem, what are some of the words and what are some of the processes now to talk about? Talking about the phloem, so what about the phloem here? I start with the leaf. What are some of the specialized structures in the leaf? The leaf has got specialized cells. Cells have got chloroplast. What is chloroplast?
Cell.
Organelle in the leaf cells, right? So now I talk about that these leaf cells will be having the organelle. Which organelle am I talking about? The chloroplast. Chloroplasts are involved for the synthesis of photosynthesis. And by the process of photosynthesis, what is it producing? Glucose. But this glucose, since we are learning transportation, something more you have to remember is this glucose will not remain like this in the plant cells. The moment photosynthesis happens, glucose is formed, glucose immediately gets transformed into some other forms. So this glucose gets converted to a bit complex form known as sucrose, and then it will get dissolved. Where does it get dissolved? In the cells of the phloem. Where is phloem? Are the leaves very closely connected with the phloem? Yes. By the way of the phloem, the leaves are always connected. So every leaf, these hundreds of leaves, always they will be connected by the way of their veins to the nearby phloem. So this food is getting dissolved in the cells of the phloem. But is it only unidirectional movement? No. If I talk about this phloem again may be getting distributed. The phloem tubes may again get distributed this direction also. From one particular leaf, the phloem is in the form of a network, but the distribution of the food, unlike the xylem, for the xylem we always would show this way, upward movement only. But for the phloem, it has to be in all possible directions. This leaf can give away food to the surrounding leaves also, to the branches down, to the stem down, to the roots down, to the leaves up. So that means the process of distribution of the food can happen in all possible directions by the phloem. So now the food is in the form of sucrose getting dissolved in the phloem and then undergoing a process of distribution. What is this process of distribution of the food known as translocation? What is the distribution of the food known as translocation? And here what is the upward movement of the water known as? Here the upward movement of the water I would mention. This entire process of upward movement of the water, the transpirational pull. What is this upward movement of water known as? This is known as ascent of sap. So this much you'll have to go through. This much is what you are supposed to study. What is the job of the xylem phloem? Now this comes as a 3-mark question also for you, where you'll have to explain the movement of the distribution of the water minerals. Now for that you'll have to mention the names of the cells also. So when you write the description, you will have to write down the description of the cells. Then the mention of the cells also should be there. So I'd already asked you what are the cells of the xylem, what are the cells of the phloem. First of all, I want you just write down this rough reference always. What are some of the terms, key terms, concepts that has to be there? I'll give you a short answer on the entire process of description. Just write down the ready relation between the terms and the processes that you have to mention for the xylem, that you have to mention for the phloem. Then we will try writing down roughly a 3-mark answer what you should describe. It's a text question and it always comes in the paper at least, if not for food, for water minerals. So either water minerals or food.